So this is the brand new MacBook Pro 14 with M5, and this is the brand new iPad Pro with M5. They both share the same chip name, but totally have different behavior. I usually like to split these into two separate videos, but the hardware story this year is mostly unchanged. So let's focus on what actually moves the needle. Now, before I begin, a lot of you, about 88% of you are watching my videos, but not subscribing. I find that very interesting. You know, it's like you're coming peeking in, but you know, just come join the channel. You know, I'd love to have you here, and all the support means a lot to me. But look, on the iPad Pro, the chassis is basically identical to last year's M4 model. It still has the gorgeous tandem OLED Ultra Retina XDR display. The design is the same, and your Pencil Pro and Magic Keyboard will carry over. The headline updates are basically Wi-Fi 7 and, on cellular models, Apple's new C1X modem. Storage and memory configurations will vary by SKU, but visually and functionally, this is the same premium iPad Pro experience as the previous model. On the MacBook Pro 14, the story is also sort of the same. Same Thunderbolt 4 ports, the excellent keyboard, haptic Force Touch trackpad, and the 120Hz mini LED ProMotion display. The big differences this year live under the hood. The MacBook Pro 14 M5 posts much faster internal SSD speeds than my M3 machines. I measured roughly about 6,745 megabytes a second read and 7,218 megabyte write. That's close to double what I saw on my M3 unit. Now, obviously, this increased storage speed will be felt when you're ingesting large media, swapping big models, or round-tripping projects. But this is a GPU-led year. Like, if you're coming from an M1 or M3, the uplift is great. Like in 3D Mark Steel Nomad Lite, the MacBook Pro 14 with M5 gained about 34 to 35% performance uplift compared to the M4 and about 50% compared to the M3. But the iPad saw a different story, only about 1 to 2% versus the iPad Pro with M4, which is basically a wash on the tablet side. On the CPU side, the gains are exactly what you expect from an annual tick. Firefox Mozilla Compile is a test I usually run. The MacBook Pro 14 with M5 scored 14 minutes, which is about 12.5% faster than the M4 and about 36% faster than the M3 in my environment. The M4 Max is still way ahead. Geekbench, single core, about 17% versus M4 and 36% versus M3. Multi-core, roughly 17% versus M4 and 48% versus M3. Now, Geekbench with the iPad Pro was a little bit different. I only saw about a 12% performance uplift versus the M4, which is a modest bump. Now, Cinebench tracks the same story on single core, about 17% versus M4 and 41% versus M3, which lines up with the snappier feel in day-to-day tasks. My Cinebench multi-score run landed much higher than expected, around 42% versus M4, which is a little bit unusual compared to the Geekbench multi-score, but that's what it got. Real apps with less synthetic workloads like speedometer hit 58, the fastest I've personally recorded on a laptop so far. So if you live in a browser or use heavy web apps, this is as quick as it gets right now. Now, in Premiere Pro for video editors, I saw a 28% increase versus M4 and about 20% versus M3 on the Pro. Some of that gap closes because the Air is fanless and the Pro has active cooling, so the Pro will sustain higher clock speeds for longer. Photoshop was interesting because it was so close to the M4 Max. I saw about a 40% bump versus the M4 in the Air 13 and 70% versus the M3 in the Pro 14. Photoshop leans hard on single-threaded speed, and the M5's bursty single-core helps here. Now, in terms of metal GPU workloads, Blender benchmark scored roughly 53% faster versus the M4 and about 70% faster versus the M3. The M5's GPU uplift is the headline, at least this generation. In fact, it even beats out the AMD Ryzen Max Plus 395, which the 860S inside of it is very comparable to an RTX 4060. Now, we got to talk about gaming, regardless of what laptop I review, and obviously this is not a full-fledged gaming laptop, but you can game, just like you can on any laptop, depending on the game you're playing. Now, World of Warcraft, which is a very old game, runs beautifully with settings cranked up because it has been optimized for ARM. For tougher titles like Cyberpunk, you'll want to dial the settings down. In fact, Apple has their own preset that you can use, but it's going to lock the FPS to 30. It is smooth, but the graphics don't look that great because they really have to lower the resolution. But yes, it's playable. Native titles and Apple Arcade will obviously run beautifully on the MacBook Pro 14 with M5, but AAA titles will truly push this thing. Like, you're gonna want a more powerful MacBook to run those games. Now, I still need more time to test out battery life, as it will take a good 2 weeks for the battery to calibrate, but based on my testing so far, M5 seems to be more efficient than M4. Not by a lot, but it is slightly noticeable. Any 30 to an hour gain will make a difference in your day. Like, I was using it for the entire day and I still had over 60% battery life left at the end. So these things are all day laptops. Now look, the iPad, you can tell Apple clearly prioritized efficiency and NPU AI over raw GPU horsepower. It's just a year-over-year uplift. Like, if you have an M4, like, there's really no reason to get jealous. Just stick with your laptop. I promise you, you're not gonna notice a difference. If you're coming from like a iPad Pro with M1, yeah, you're gonna feel the jump as long as the application you're using can take advantage of the M5. A lot of iPad apps are just not there yet, so you really have to know what you're getting yourself into. The MacBook Pro 14 M5 is a bit of a different story. Like, if you're on an M3 or older and your workflow really taps the GPU, then yeah, this year it's absolutely worth it. In terms of CPU performance, like if you're just in the web all day, then yeah, it's not really worth the upgrade. You might as well wait until next year. So yeah, that wraps up my review of the MacBook Pro 14 with M5. If any questions at all, let me know in the comment section down below and I'll do my best to answer as many of them as I can. Like the video if you liked it, subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys in the next one.